Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. So we have another board over here. This is one that we removed the socket and I don't remember. Oh, I think, yeah, I remember. It slightly melted when I replaced this one. It was still, it seemed like it would hold the CPU and maybe it would work, but I decided I'm gonna do it again because now we know what the problems were with the machine. And from my last video, I received even more information from you guys, and one particularly important piece of information, and that is actually the issue with the documentation. And from what I understand, it is the issue of the translation from the Mandarin or Chinese simplified, whatever, into English. And that was that HB factor that we didn't know what it did. The other piece of information I received is to remove the plate to expose the heater. This is also IR heater, and it's the same heater we had on the Ihua. What was the number? Whatever, that little preheater. Only this one is significantly larger. But the plate, that glass, absorbs a lot of heat and also transfers that heat to this part, the bottom, the top plate. Now, the screws, after all that heating and stuff, the screws were, most of them were unremovable, so I had to drill through them, and I even left one of these because I figured, well, I'm not gonna fight with this, but most of the screws I just had to drill through to remove them. Only 3 of them actually came off. Couple of them broke off. These 2 broke off. These 3 got removed, and the rest I had to drill through. Now we have a thermocouple over here hanging, and it was covered by this piece of aluminum foil, like so, effectively reducing the heating power of this, well, significantly. I would say significantly. That's a big piece, and not to mention that it burned. It's like really crappy work. Like, come on, a piece of aluminum foil as a I assume to keep the temperature in, so we can more precisely measure the temperature. But again, this thermocouple can go all the way to the board, giving us the temperature more accurately, the temperature more or less of the board instead of the temperature of the heater. Now on Ihua, the thermocouple is actually installed at the back of the heater, which makes a little more sense. But on the other hand, you're not really reading the temperature. Well, that was the modification I did on the previous one. I just moved the thermocouple up here to the heater. But also on the previous one, the board would sit neatly on the heater, like only a few centimeters, like maybe a couple centimeters, maybe even less, off the heater. And I would put the aluminum foil around to just kind of keep all that heat in. In this case, we don't have that, or at least not yet. I'm still contemplating how to make some kind of enclosure over here so I can just trap all that heat in there. But that's not crucial at the moment. We'll see what the temperature we're gonna get now. I'm not gonna do 420 degrees as I did before. I'm gonna drop it to maybe 320, and that should give me at least 80 on the board, maybe more. We'll see exactly why. We'll see exactly how much. But the main issue that has been resolved by you guys in the comments is the HB. So what is that HB? The meaning of HB. HB means the max heating temperature of the upper heating. End of sentence. So this is max temperature of the upper heating. Okay, so you can understand that, yeah, it's a translation issue. Now, since that explanation doesn't really give us much, let's check the example curves, right? And for lead-free reballing or reflowing, now this is our rework temperature, rework, I don't know which one's reflow, which one's whatever. We ramp up to 85, then to 140, then to 220 for 65 seconds. So that's the reflow, the actual reflow. And that's the end. And HB is set to 230 degrees. So 10 degrees higher than the maximum temperature that we want. That's why I thought that this is the actual maximum temperature that will be achieved throughout the cycle. But using it, I see that it's not true. It's not correct, because the temperature will go to whatever point we set in each step. So that 230 doesn't really do much. And both for leaded and lead-free, for leaded we have temperature 190, and the HB is still 230. And here 230, here 230. In all the examples, the temperature of the HB temperature is set to 230. So what is that? That actually is the maximum difference between the current temperature and the set temperature. And this is something that I noticed when, I don't remember, I had maybe a 50 degrees set on it or whatever. So pretty low. And I noticed that as the temperature climbs, the set temperature climbs, it'll stop. And this run LED just starts blinking. I didn't know what that was and why it was behaving that way. And now it all makes sense. And the ramp will stop if the difference between the temperature set and temperature current or measured temperature is more than the HB. So if we set HB to 10 degrees, the temperature set will never grow more than 10 degrees above the measured temperature. That's why I had better results when I just slowed down ramping, so the actual temperature kind of follows the set temperature neatly, like only a few degrees, it's only a few degrees off. So if you remove the thermocouple, the heater will just stop, basically. So that solves the problem of melting sockets. Second improvement is the glass removal. I'm curious what the temperatures are going to be. So without any further ado, let's place the board. Let's start heating and see what kind of results we're going to get. This one is a 1200 socket. The motherboard is, what is this motherboard? Gigabyte, oh, it's under the aluminum foil. This is Gigabyte motherboard with 1200 socket. There was a lot of stuff on it, meaning the whole back plate. I don't even remember how to reassemble it, so that's gonna be a challenge. But what are you gonna do? The previous one, I didn't actually test it, so I don't know if it works or not. I tested the socket on each corner, lifting it, everything's solid. So it looks like it's soldered on correctly. But since I heated it up so many times and to very high temperatures that the stuff was just oozing out of the board, like really overheated. And now when I move the board, it flexes, it's very flimsy now. So very likely the board is not going to work. So that's why I'm not too keen on actually testing it, because it takes time to put it in the box and connect everything just to test it. So I'm just kind of keeping that when I have nothing else to do. But the socket soldered on, and that was the whole purpose. And now I was also advised that definitely you always have to use the flags I agree, but I'm not clear on not cleaning the flags. I'm using RMA flags because I used NC flags, which typically doesn't have to be cleaned because it's non-aggressive, but it's non-aggressive, that's why it sucks. I used, what was it, MTech NC, what is it, NC559 ASM. It sucks. It really sucks. Even for desoldering, with this, it just desoldering is a pain because the solder doesn't want to catch the wick. It stays on the board. Even for cleaning the socket, it's next to impossible to clean it with this flags. And previous attempt on that Z170 board, I used NC flags and the socket didn't solder on. I used RMA flags and the socket did solder on. So I'm not too clear on that. I was always told that RMA flags needs to be cleaned, otherwise it might corrode the board, or the board will suffer one way or the other. But in the comment I was advised that the modern flags, it will just disappear over time. I don't know, but we're gonna keep testing and we're gonna find out. But thank you very much for the advice, and I will obviously find out. I will obviously test it. All right, let's do it.
We are dreaming in the dark. We are nothing more than dust. Search but you stay lost. We are reaching for the stars, but we're making this too hard. And I wonder where you are. Mysterious, that's the part you always show. 'Cause you're too curious. Maybe you should take it slow. Mysterious, that's the part you always show. 'Cause you're too curious. Maybe you should take it slow. We're dreaming in the dark. We are nothing more than dust. You search but you stay lost. We're reaching for the stars, but we're making this too hard. And I wonder where you are. Mysterious, that's the part you always show. 'Cause you're too curious. Maybe you should take it slow. Mysterious, that's the part you always show. 'Cause you're too curious. Maybe you should take it slow.
Alrighty, the socket is resoldered. It's solid. I checked all the corners, lifting and pushing, no play. It looks like it dropped uniformly. It's nice and flat. The board hasn't deformed. And now the numbers. So this is not the final curve yet. Well, if you want to use these, I would advise to improve them because I'm pretty sure the last 230 is completely unnecessary, because as I was watching it, when it was done with the 225 cycle, the socket already dropped, all the flux has evaporated, there was a little bit of smoke, and I think it was already resoldered. So with the next socket I'll remove the last step. But the bottom heating I set to 160. That brings the board temperature to about 100 degrees. So only 60 degrees lower than the temperature set. Now, since the thermocouple is kind of hanging in the air, it's kind of a pain, because every time the door opens, there's a little bit of draft and the temperature immediately drops. But the temperature of the board is still proper, so there's a bit too much heat going into the board because of that. So that thermocouple would be great if it was placed on the board. So I'll try to figure something out so the thermocouple just kind of sticks from underneath, and when I place the board, it just touches the board, and that should resolve the problem. The other way would be to just build some enclosure underneath, which is also something I'm considering. The program. So first we're preheating to about 90 at the moment. I would probably think before I was preheating to 130, 125, 130, and I found that to be a lot easier when the board is that hot, but you're risking flexing. And this heater is actually powerful enough that you don't need to preheat it that much, at least so far, my observation. So let's review the program. So first we're ramping 0.8. That's a lot, but HB is set to 10 degrees. So the temperature of the set temperature will never be more than 10 degrees higher than the temperature read. So ramping up 0.8, to 160. And we hold it for 2 minutes, 120 seconds. Then step 2, 0.8 ramping. Again, I'll probably drop it to 0.5. It's still work in progress. We go to 225 and we hold for 2 minutes. Another 2 minutes, 120 seconds. Then the final step is 0.5 ramping, and we go to 230 for 160 seconds. I'm gonna drop that actually to 100 seconds, and that's the end of the program, and HB is set to 10 degrees. That seems to work really well. The socket is nice and solid. It dropped very nicely. There's no signs of any kind of overheating, any bulging, anything like that. It looks like perfectly done job. Now, as far as protecting the other components, it actually is the more cleaning that you have to do afterwards is to remove that glue that holds the tape, because it burns and it burns into the board. It probably doesn't do any damage, but it just looks awful. And I tried with IPA and toothbrush, not much of an effect. You probably would have to use something a little more aggressive than IPA, but then you're risking removing the protective layer from the board. So that's one step that I'm gonna have to figure out. The thermocouple, make sure that it touches the board. It's not hanging in the air, because you're gonna have the same problem I have at the bottom. Any draft, any movement of the air, and the temperature of the thermocouple drops immediately, drastically, and then the heater tries to compensate. That gives you a little bit of less stable temperature, or unstable temperature control. But other than that, we are... Oh, that dog is loud. There you go. So yeah, we need to do a lot of cleaning, mainly from this tape. I think I'm gonna switch to the actual aluminum tape, or maybe Captain tape, because Captain tape cleans very neatly. I just take it off and the board is clean. The aluminum foil, for some reason, it leaves a lot of residue. Let's see, yeah, that's way too much glue on this. Yeah, very sticky, very dirty. But what are you gonna do? It's better than exploding capacitors. And by the way, I still have to replace 4 capacitors on this board, which I exploded. Actually, these two probably, this one definitely, because they're bloated. So I will have to replace this one. The one other thing that I do now is I screw the board on to these little screws. That allows the board to hold the original shape when I'm heating it up, and that minimizes the deformation that happens when you heat the board up. And we have pretty much, yeah, it was a little bit deformed before, but this is like absolutely minimum deformation. You wouldn't even tell. It looks good. And the socket, nicely solid, nicely resoldered. It's aligned, or at least it looks aligned. Yeah, one good thing, failing this many times, I just kind of learned how to align the socket. I was working on, well, conceptually at least, I was working on the device, some kind of bracket to align the socket. And well, I haven't figured anything out to actually do it, but in all those efforts I just kind of got a hang of it, and now it's not that bad to align the socket. So it's all practice. It turns out to all be practice. You don't necessarily need any alignment tool, which I thought I did. All right, that is it. So to summarize, remove the plate. Oh, it's still pretty hot. Not super hot, but still pretty hot. That allows you to drop the temperature to 160, which is still even a bit too high, but we still need to figure out the thermocouple, which is hanging in the air. Actually, there. Okay, I fixed it. No, just kidding. But yeah, if I just do this, like so, yeah, it should be touching the board now. Not exactly in the center, but there's plenty of that wire inside that we can pull out, and that should fix the problem, I would think. It is also twisted in the way that I really don't like, but it does work, so we'll leave it like so. Second, the HB, keep the HB as low as possible. I mean, 10 degrees, it seems to be fine, but I might even drop it a little lower. Maybe 8 degrees, maybe 6. We'll see. The fan switch, always on, because this gets hot very quickly, and you don't want to burn the wires inside. The distance of the heater and the board, 30 millimeters. I was at like 32 exactly. So roughly 3 centimeters off the board. Then when the fan switch is constantly on, that air just escapes up much higher, so it doesn't really interfere with the board. And that's it. And this program, well, it works, but I'm pretty sure I can reduce it. That third step probably not needed. Just 2 minutes. 2 minutes seems to do the trick. So a lot quicker than the hot air, a lot quicker. And you do want to make this procedure very quick, because the longer you heat up the board, the more damage you're risking to it. And that's it. The machine, yeah, maybe it's not the best, maybe the quality is not awesome. It's not the machine for dummies, meaning you just press the button and it does all the work by itself. You really need to understand how it works and how to actually prep it and how to use it. We'll see on the AM5 sockets whether I need to improve anything, like perhaps a little longer cycle of 225, because it is much larger socket and they can withstand a lot more heat. We'll see about that, but for 1151 and 1200, so all those sockets with the window, this program seems to be working very well. The bottom heater works very well now as well. So again, it's a good device. I still recommend it. It's still a lot easier, a lot quicker than working with hot air. There's also another advantage of IR among all the disadvantages, but one advantage over hot air is hot air first of all requires a nozzle to just kind of cover the whole socket pretty much, because the temperature drops very quickly if the nozzle is far away or if there is no enclosure around it. So it pretty much needs to cover the whole socket, and since it blows, you're risking that the socket is going to shift, and I've had that experience a few times. Even one of them is published on my channel, where the socket did solder on, but it shifted. And when exactly, I don't know, because once you drop the nozzle, you can't really see inside. With this one, you can constantly see, you can see exactly when it drops, so you don't need sophisticated cameras and stuff. I was looking into better devices than this from the same company, and they have two more. The Pro, which is pretty much the same exact machine, but the bottom heater is actually I think four of those long IR heaters. And other than that, the controllers are the same. The head is exact same, or the top heater. And it costs, for some reason, it costs $1,000. So just for the preheater and the rest the same, and $1,000, that doesn't seem right to me. And they have one more, which is, I don't remember, 1500 model. I'm not sure, but it comes with like a little joystick, and there's the top heater is completely different. The bottom heater is different. The controllers are different. It's a different device, but you gotta cough up the like $4,200 for that, or was it $3,200, something like that. So that's way outside of my reach. I might, we'll see how much stuff do I have to purchase with the money I made this month, or last month, November. But I didn't make much, around $600. So to save up for that machine, I would have to stop spending from the LLC for quite a few months. Or maybe if the suddenly, maybe December will be like a super profitable month. We'll see. Probably not. And even if it was, then maybe I'll do 1,500 in a month. I really don't think so. But that would be like tops, because I also don't have as much time to dedicate into repairs to make that much money, and I don't want to raise the prices. But there we have it. That is the procedure. It seems to be working just fine. And the majority of the information that I've learned how to use it is from the YouTube comments from you guys. So thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with me. Now I'm getting proficient in the socket replacement. So soon I might start actually making money on socket replacements. So no more free service, but free service still stands. So if you have the board you would like to send in for socket replacement, go ahead, send it in. You're only charged for the shipping and obviously the price of the socket if you don't have one, and that's pretty much it. But remember, the board needs to be disassembled. If you send assembled board, there's an extra charge for disassembly. All right, that'll do. Let's get some rest, maybe eat some breakfast, and I have quite a few more boards that I gotta do the same stuff on, so I'm gonna get to that maybe today. Thank you guys very much for watching. I do appreciate you, and I shall see you in the next one.